Welcome back to SRV San Francisco, and it's the second half of its second class in the weekend, and where the Vedanta and its teachings are bolstering us up and causing us to think very deeply. Very thought-provoking, as one person told me at the break. One new person who has probably heard this message, as many of us have, in various ways throughout life and maybe even in previous lifetimes, so it has that ring of familiarity to it. But to bring it forward and concentrate on it, make it one's pole star in life, make it the main philosophy and religion that one bases one's life and existence upon, is of course called commitment or dedication. And as happened last night, several people took initiation into the path and therefore made that commitment to living a spiritual life, a divine life, a dharmic life. All of those little bit different shades of life, but all of them also well beyond worldly life, well beyond a life of suffering, and especially suffering in ignorance. If you know why you suffer, then you've made a great step in life. But like I said, Buddha's first noble truth, there is suffering. And the second noble truth is there's a cause for it. And the third noble truth is there's a way out of it. So you can't call Buddhism a pessimistic religion just based upon hearing the first noble truth. You have to find out that he did some very deep introspection and meditation. One of his meditations lasted about 49 days or so. Now that's a long time to sit under the bo tree. Bo is Bodhi. Bodhi means intelligence. So he named himself after that, the Buddha. So that deep introspection, looking into the nature of life and existence, both relative and absolute, or if you want to put it in that way, both the nirguna and the saguna aspects of life, all the way from the highest principle, non-duality, down to the grossest element of earth, then you become a thorough knower of Brahman. You know the unreal, you know the real, and you know that the unreal never is, and the real never ceases to be. That's how Krishna puts it in the Gita. The truth of both of those has been known by the seers. The unreal never is, it's just a phantom, and the real never ceases to be. It's always present in front of you. You're just looking at it a little bit askew sometimes, not seeing it properly, like the old adage in Vedanta of the snake and the rope. Some of you might have heard that. It's a very famous Vedantic adage that Shankara used, by the way. Raju Sarpanyaya, I think it's called in Sanskrit. And a man is walking, he sees a snake and jumps in fear. You see, it's dusk, it's getting dark. But he mistaked the rope for a snake. He looks closer and he sees his fear was unfounded. His vision was imperfect. And he based everything on that false assumption. That's a description of reading the universe in the wrong way, not seeing it as Brahman, rather seeing it as a snake or something other than what it is. If you see something as it really is, then you cease to fear it. And so knowledge, again, the greatest purifier. We're not talking about, again, strictly moral or ethical teachings where you have to do some certain practices to quit smoking or quit drinking or whatever it is that you have to do that you should have never gotten into in the first place. So that morality would be yours and you wouldn't have to go seeking it. But we're speaking about a teaching that's beyond that again, and something that is natural to life. It's dharmic life. And that dharmic life will make a god out of a man and a goddess out of a woman. It'll turn them into Shiva and Shakti, rather than just a male and female form that passes in cycles again and again with the ancestors and back. And that's precisely where we arrived after the first half in this sloka number 8. He says, in no uncertain terms, I have realized that great being who shines effulgent like the sun. And it's beyond all darkness. You see, a sun doesn't experience darkness, so it's a good metaphor And it's a good principle to meditate upon. One passes beyond death only upon realizing that, and there is no other way to escape from the circle of births and deaths. So that took us to this chart where Holy Mother is telling us in various ways about the process of embodiment, because it's not there in our one lifetime scenario box that we're in Western religion, in Western psychology, in Western science, in Western conventional ways of saying. We always are thinking in terms of one lifetime. So talk about limitations of the intellect, as we were just chanting in the first half. If we can get outside that box and begin to see all of this as an effect of some cause, not just earth and water and fire, air and ether and so forth, but all our actions, all our thoughts, all our relationships, including with our ancestors and family and with friends and so forth, then we begin to have a much deeper look into the nature of things based on many lifetime scenario. And it's only then, when you know that you've been living many lifetimes, that you can, like Buddha did under the Bo tree, cut them away and say, I will just live one life now forever. I will live eternal life. That's what Christ was promising to all the apostles. The coming and going of the body is not going to mar that perfection of that realization. It's not going to change my soul. I can put on as many bodies and let them go as often as I want. So this is what she's saying here. A man is born again and again in a family, but he does so according to desire. Now, if you can attenuate desire and be born with credit merits, like in a past lifetime he meditated some, he found a teacher and learned the wisdom, he practiced devotions, did his pujas, did his worship, he yearned with a sincere longing to know God. He served other beings. Better yet, he served God in other beings. Because you may serve other beings and they take it to the ego, but if you serve God in other beings, then they tend to be God-like. That's the slight distinction. So you don't serve the egos. That's why I said you can't help anyone. God doesn't need your help. So you're not serving human beings, you're serving God in human beings. And that will give them the idea that, oh, maybe there is God in me. But if you're serving their ego, it just pads their ego, you see. I must be worth something, you see. No, you're worthless. Didn't you know that? We're all worthless. As bodies, we're worthless. And the only worthiness is that spirit, you see, that soul, that intelligence, that life, that eternal life. See, everything else just comes and goes in pallid repetition. There's a song in India that sings, to hope for help from friends and relatives provides no solution. Don't you know that everyone's lost here? Everyone lives in pallid imitation of everyone else. Have you noticed? And not just in one lifetime, dozens. Pallid imitation, boredom, superficiality. Can't go outside your house and start talking to someone without hearing, how's the weather or how are you? You feel like saying, there is no weather, there is no me. Everything's always sunny inside of me. See? I have realized that great being who shines effulgent like the sun beyond darkness. How can you ask a person who knows that, how's the weather? There's just an eternal sun shining in that person all the time. And if there's any rain, it's the rain of grace. So try and think about that next time you think of Sri Ramakrishna or Ramana Maharshi or Dalai Lama or anyone way as far back as Sri Krishna or Sri Ramchandra. Try and think about that as their nature. Then you're going to have to think about all others who haven't realized that nature as existing under the auspice of desire. And they need to earn some credit merits. They need to do some sadhana and some practice. They began to, as we ended out the last half, cut themselves in the image. The image is graven. It's perfect. There's not a flaw in it. And you have to measure yourself up to that. You can't bring it down off the mountain and let the people dance around it, you see. You have to go up there, like Moses did, to see it face to face, to believe in it, see, to have faith in it. So, cut in the image of the Spirit. You could also say mankind is cut in the image of God, that God is just mankind walking around on two legs, just doesn't know it yet, and isn't seeing it in others. So the first time you're going to see it is in a great soul, see, or you're going to hear about it in a great soul. That's why Swami Vivekananda sings in so many beautiful ways, things. Shakti samudra samuta tarangam darshita prema vidrimbita rangam samshaya rakshashana samahastram yami guru sharanam bhavavaijam yami guru sharanam bhavavaijam. Naradeva Deva Jaya Jaya Naradeva Naradeva Deva Jaya Jaya Naradeva Naradeva Deva Jaya Jaya Naradeva. Naradeva, not a man, Deva God. God in mankind, Jaya, victory to that one. That's what makes you different from the animals and the insects and the plants, is that you've reached the station of human being. You've been reborn as a human being. The first great boon in life is a human body. The second is a good teacher. Because if you don't know about that divinity inside of you, you're going to turn the human body into a party, see? With drugs and drinks, carousing. And then pretty soon, the only thing you can ask the person is, how are you? How's the weather? What was your day like? How did that make you feel? Then you have to go to a person that says, how do you make you feel? You see, you're on the therapist couch, right? That's the mantra of today. How does that make you feel? I don't have feelings anymore. I'm the Buddha. I don't have sentiments and emotions. I don't need them. I've transcended the emotional level of things. My psychology is yoga. My cosmology is Sankhya. My philosophy is Vedanta. And my true nature is Advaita, non-dual. And it's an unimpeachable position. Nobody can threaten it. Not like some throne somewhere, you see, in the kingdom of Game of Thrones, you see. Nobody can threaten it. Brahman is unimpeachable. The Nirguna Brahman, I have known that, you see. I have known it. That great being who shines effulgent like the sun beyond darkness. Therefore, I put on the board the last sloka of this chapter. This is our seventh meditation chant that we're learning. I hope you know all the other six by now and have memorized them. Om Bhur-bhuvaswa Tat-savitur Varenyam Yata Dipo Nivatasto Nengati Sopamashrita. That's 2. Om Shatagunam Vidyan Mananam Mananapi. That's 3. Om Drishyam Pratitam Pravilapayansan. That's number 4. Ara Eva Ratanabhau Samhatra Natta Yadjaha. That's number 5. See, you have to know them all. So I'm giving you. And then finally, the most recent one is the sloka in the first chapter here, which I chanted in the first half. Devatma Shaktim Svagunaya Nagudam. By practicing meditation, they realized the divine energy and everything. Now here we have Veda Hametama Jaram Puranam Sarvatmanam Sarvagatam Vivutvat Janma Nirodam Pravadanti Yasya Brahmavadino Hi Pravadanti Nityam. Pravadanti means, occurs twice in there, means those who declare the truth about Brahman. We go to them to hear the truth. So he says in this beautiful song I just sang, salutations, I make a complete offering to my Guru, who is a all-powerful wave of purity rising out of an infinite ocean of Shakti, who is the ultimate healer of all chronic diseases and who destroys all doubts and worldliness and attachment. That's what he's singing. Shakti Samudra Samutas Tarangam, the Shakti. See? I make a complete offering of myself to her, powerful, and to my Guru, who's a powerful wave rising out of her ocean. Because they're Pravadanti, they're telling you the truth when they come. They're not asking you how's the weather or how are you. So you know the truth and the truth will set you free. Will anything else set you free? So that one subject is the subject of the Vedanta. It's the subject of the Buddha. It's the subject of Jesus. It wasn't there for any other reason. So cut yourself in that image. Be like that. And then you too can sing like Vivekananda did. Nada Deva Deva Jaya Jaya Nada Deva. I am God come into the human flesh and I'm victorious. I think it's one way you could put it. I am God come into human flesh and I am victorious. Whether I'm inside the body or beyond the body. So she says then here, a man is born again and again due to desire. But then there's his credit merits. If he starts working and doing his practice, he can free himself from the cycles of birth and death like the Buddha did. And then she gives you here, and I put here for you, the three bodies, in case you didn't understand that Triputi when we mentioned it yesterday and in the first half. Here's the constituents of your three bodies, basically, and what they consist of, you see. The first is the immanent world, or the physical body. Well, guess what? It's made of air, earth, fire, water, and ether, flesh, marrow, bones, fat, blood, skin, nails, and the five organs of action, speaking, handling, locomotion, excreting, and procreating. That pretty much describes the gross body and the immanent world. When you say, I want to protect the three worlds, oh Lord, may you protect the three worlds. You want us to protect us, the Lord to protect us here in the body long enough for us to realize the soul. So then we have a choice whether or not we're coming back in the body again. But we'll never come back here in ignorance, that's for sure. Then you have the transcendent world, world number 2, and it's called the subtle body and the causal body, putting them together here. Transcendent world means intellect, ego, thought, mind, audibility, tangibility, visibility, flavor, odor, smelling, tasting, seeing, feeling, hearing, inhalation, exhalation, circulatory, ascension, digestion, and distributive powers. The 5 pranas, the 5 senses, the 5 elements, and the 5-fold mind. Basically, that's all back there inside of you. Your eyes connect to the mind, don't they? When they're going outward, they connect to the elements. But when the eyes look inward, they're connecting to the mind. So that's the subtle body. You have 3 bodies, not just one. This is the way they make the healthy distinction, you see, between those levels of consciousness. Your consciousness is much more refined at the level of the subtle body because it has intelligence there, you see. It's using intelligence. It also has the one great impairment of the ego, which if it gets too thick, it veils the light, you see. So you can always keep the ego thin. You'll never be able to get rid of it. It's like an onion. Peel it and peel it and peel it, and there's no center. And it makes you cry besides. So you have to live with the ego. That means make it refined, thin it out, ripen it, hand it over to the mother. Yeah. And then you'll sing one of Sri Ramakrishna's favorite songs that he liked very much. It's one of his favorite, and this actually applies to sense of agency, sense of ownership, and sense of separation that I talked about just at the end of class. Shakale tomaricha icha mai taratumi tomaricha Adyatma Brahmapada Karikara Adogami Ami Jantra Tumi Jantri Ami Ghar Tumi Garani Ami Rata Tumi Rati Jemni Chalo Temni Choli Shakale Tomari Icha Shakale Tomari Icha. Oh, all happens by thy own sweet will, Mother. Everything happens by thy own sweet will. You are the self-willed one and completely independent. You cause the blind man to scale the highest mountain, yet trap the powerful elephant in the mire. On some you bestow the highest bliss, others you hurl into the world of suffering. I can only conclude that I am the house and you're the indweller. I am the sword, you're its wielder. I do as you do, I see as you see through me. That's basically the message of Raja Ramchandra, the writer of this song. Sri Ramakrishna loved that song because it spoke about non-agency. All happens by thy will, Mother. So if I follow her will, then I don't have to take responsibility for my actions. If I don't follow her will, there's karma to pay, you see. There's karma to pay. And I get it in the gross body, I get it in the subtle body, and it's there in potential form in the causal body. That's why I don't know where my suffering comes from. It's all hidden back here in the causal body. It's a very strange animal, the causal body. There's almost no information about it in the scriptures. The only thing they compare it to is your deep sleep state, where the ego goes away. So there's no more effect there, but there's some cause. See, it brings you back out of it, sends you back into it. It's indeterminable, so they equate it with that curtain of nescience, you see. The cloud of unknowing. Where does the mind go at that time? And they contrast it to meditation, going into formless state with full consciousness, as compared to going into formless state without that consciousness, in deep sleep. Samadhi, deep sleep, samadhi, deep sleep, see? So there you have waking, dreaming, visionary state, deep sleep, and turiya, formless, you see? That's the fourth state, turiya. It's beyond waking, dreaming, and deep sleep. If you go into it consciously, then you become a seer. Seer goes into deep sleep, comes out a seer. But a fool goes into deep sleep, comes out a fool. But if any of them go into deep sleep, beyond deep sleep to turiya, they both come out a seer. They've seen the truth, and the truth will set you free, yes. That's the whole purpose of life. If it even could be called a purpose, it really is the essence of life, is to be free. So the causal body, what's it made up of? This is all I could find. An undifferentiated state. The intellect ceases to vibrate there. There's no vibration in it, so no forms. It shows really that the pillow is just your thought form made concretized. It's a vibration, but they think it just came from nature. But what made nature solidify it was your mind, your idea. First the inventor, then the invention. See, thought is father to the deed. We haven't put these things together yet. To trace something back to a subtle cause, let's just speak of a causal cause. It's beyond us. Alochana, deep thinking. That's, as soon as you get beyond family and conventions, then you reach the ability to engage in alochana, seeing, deep thinking that causes deep seeing. And you sit around with your eyes wide open. You're never sleepy. You're never bored. You're like a hound of heaven on the trail of the divine. And you can't think of anything else but that. Even in your sleep, even in your dreamings, you can't think of anything else but that. Takes you over. What happened to my boredom? What happened to my ignorance? What happened to my depression? What happened to my problems? Gone, gone, utterly gone. My third eye is open. Now I'm just on the trail of that ultimate vision. I have to see her. I have to see her with my own eyes. She comes into flesh very seldom. I'm going to have to be there in that 50, 60, 70 years where she actually embodies. How good an aim do I have, you see, to hit the mark in history? This time is like a river. Buddha said, I got out of the river and looked at it, and then I projected a body 550 years before the Christ, you see. And then he took himself out of it again. Everyone else is rolling along as this a linear thing. It's not a linear thing, it's a layer cake. Time is stacked on top of time, and it's all in one eternal moment. And that eternal moment belongs to her. That's why they call her Kali. Kala means time. Kalas means phases of time. And that's a law that exists in her. So, intellect ceases to vibrate there. My time for deep thinking is over. Or, my time for deep thinking has reached fructification. All my deep thoughts are now leading me where I wanted them to. The great thinker, right? Pondering. The famous statue, right? That's alochana coming upon a human being. When world weariness begins to attend upon him, or old age attends upon him. Then he sings, Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam Mudamate Samprapte Sanihite Kali Nahi Nahi Rakshati Dukrin Karine. When I was a child, when I was a baby, I was attached to my mother's breast. When I was a child, I was attached to sport. When I was a young man, I was attached to a young woman. And when I was old, I was attached to anxiety, because death is coming. But to the Supreme Brahman, alas, I was never attached. I was never attached to the reality. So I spent every minute of my time from the cradle to the grave brooding about a single breast, a couple breasts, sport, and old age. What kind of a life is that for the noble Atman to live? Brooding is the worst waste of time. The curtain of nescience is thickened by brooding. This curtain of nescience consists of ignorance of your true nature, doubt, and fear. Those are the three elements in the curtain of nescience, which are precisely there in the causal body. Your whole life is coming out of a state of fear. You fear to get in the body, fear to leave the body. Fear while you're in the body, isn't it? That primal root fear that's behind everything. And the doubt that attends it, you see. So you brood on those, and this curtain gets thick, and pretty soon you can't see your way. You're like in a dark room, bumping into things, and you don't know where to go. The great exemplars come and say, there's the way, and you don't listen. I think I'll just stay lost. So quit brooding about these things. Thin the curtain of nescience, because you have to see through that. You're going to have to penetrate through this line of demarcation in order to get free. And you want to do that before you die, ideally. You don't want to leave it to chance. Now, if you have your credit merits from meditation and you begin to gain a little bit of mastery over death, like one song sings, I have received a command from the Mother of the Universe that death must die. then I'm going to put death in its own grave, you see. So I'm doing that as I practice, because as I practice, the principles I'm studying as I meditate and read are all about deathlessness, eternity, consciousness, the soul. These are all things that never die. And lo and behold, I find out along the way that nature never dies either. That my children never die. That when my baby comes out of the womb, it comes out of a causal state. And when he lives, he's living in a subtle and physical state. And when he turns old and passes out of the body, he just goes back to the causal state. There's no death. There's just dream transition. Now I'm here, now I'm there, now I wake up here, now I go to sleep there, now I'm born here, now I'm dead, now I'm reborn here. That's all it is. It's just shifting your consciousness around layers. Layers of your own mind. Layers of the great mind. And you're looking for some source in it. That's called seeking. So seek thee first. All of that would be added unto you. But don't seek this or her, and you're lost here. Don't you know that everyone's lost here? They're living in pallid imitation of everyone else. But as my father believes he's dying, then I'm going to believe I'm dying when it's my turn. When never the case. Never the such was the case. I never die. And if this eye opens, I'll know that. 7 different religions talk about this eye. I found it in 7 different religions. I have a chart on it. Not just Hindu religion. Not just a poster you see on the wall with Mother Kali and she's got a third eye. What's that mean? What kind of esoteric meaning is there? But you find it in 6 other different religious traditions of the world. Whether you call it Jnana Chakshu, the wisdom eye, or the white dove ascending, as the Gnostics called it, that Christ visited, or if you call it the white sun, as the Taoists call it, you look everywhere. See, if thine eye be single eye, as Christ called it, if that opens, then you realize the eternity of all things, the non-origination of all things. Nothing has a beginning. It doesn't have an end either. It's all continual cycles. And that's the penultimate realization. And once you see it's all eternal cycles, you're going to go, gee, I don't know if I want to stay on the merry-go-round, now that I know that. That's what happened to Buddha. I don't know if I want to stay in those cycles. See, first you hear that word, everything's interconnected. But everything that is interconnected in the New Age philosophy as compared to everything is interconnected in the Buddhist philosophy are 2 different things. In the New Age philosophy, you say, oh, great, we're one with nature. In the Buddhist philosophy, it says, I am not one with nature. Nature is in me. Nature has come out of me. I'm not air, earth, fire, water, and ether. I'm not the body, or its fat, bone, flesh, skin, and excreta, I hope. I'm not the mind with its thoughts, its ego, its intelligence, and neither am I going to be the causal body. Just a state of non-vibration. I am the Atman, supreme. I am the eternal soul. I am all-pervasive. I am birthless and deathless. Time and space exists in me, not the other way around. What else is there in the causal body? Mind exists, but it's in a subtle state. The gunas are set in equilibrium. So you're beginning to assimilate the nirguna state, but you haven't arrived at it yet. It's like the condition of deep sleep. That's probably the easiest thing we can relate to the causal body. It's like deep sleep. Try and remember what it was like to be in deep sleep last night. And then you'll get an idea of what the causal body is. You see, formless. But it's formless with a curtain of nescience over it. Formless / curtain of nescience, you see. It's not a state that transforms you because people go into it every night and they still come out the same old person. You can dream for 8 hours and run your wheels ragged, you see. You can deep sleep for 20 minutes and be completely refreshed for 24 hours. So there's a certain reflection in it. So I must have been very close to the light of Brahman when I went into deep sleep, but I could not see the light of Brahman because my third eye was not open. I was too sleepy. I couldn't stay awake. But the illumined soul has the insomnia of yoga. He rests in a sleepless state, even when his body rests. My teacher was like that. He slept, but his mind never slept. His mind was ever awake. So your dreams do get lucid. And your deep sleep state becomes filled with light, and you pierce through the curtain of nescience, and your third eye opens, and you see. Also, this pre-exists the physical worlds. Now there's a great key for your cosmology. It pre-exists the physical world. So this body comes out of this body, and this body comes out of this body. Your physical source of that is your mind. Your mind source is the causal state. And they march out that way. And the only words we have in English for it is evolution and involution, but science is pretty much postulating that as physical only. Physical marches out, then the physical marches in. It has nothing to do with the soul. That's in charge of the physical. And in fact, beyond the causal body is your Atman, your true being, and it's watching this process go on all the time, just like Buddha outside of the river of time. It's the witness. Sakshi Bhutam, it's the witness. It sees all phenomena flow by, and it knows all phenomena are unreal. A matter of momentary significance, if any. See, rising and falling like waves on an ocean. And it stands back as witness of the other three states. It is Turiya, and it stands back as the witness of deep sleep, visions, dreaming, and waking. Sakshi Bhutam, the witness of all phenomena. So this point here is very precious. What pre-exists the physical worlds? Your consciousness in another state. It pre-exists them. So anterior to life and mind is the Atman. You know what the word anterior means? It means before. Before life and mind came into existence, your Atman was there watching the process. In other words, we know there's such a thing as rebirth because someone witnessed it. We know that the void is not the ultimate state because somebody came back from the void and gave it a name. There's a witness always to everything. My teacher used to say, you can go on denying the existence of everything. Neti, 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 not this, not this, not this, not this, not this. Finally, you've negated everything, back to a state of emptiness, like deep sleep. But then you say to yourself, wait a minute, there's been someone all along who's doing the negating. And then you turn and look at your own original face. And you see that not only you are the one that's doing negating, that all of that you negated is in you. And that you projected it. And now you're withdrawing it. All of a sudden you change your name for death to withdrawal. You don't believe in death anymore. And you don't believe in evolution and involution. You just believe in one state of mind. Ever free, never bound. With yogic insomnia and everywhere, in everything, like sunlight in dewdrops. The light is everywhere, but it's not a dewdrop. It's not the thing it reflects in. It's its own independent light. And that light you're getting a bath in deep sleep. That's why you feel so damn good, see, after deep sleep. The afternoon nap, for instance. Skip dreaming, go straight into an hour, and all of a sudden the kids break into the room and you're wide awake. You went from waking state to deep sleep, back to waking state. You skipped all the dreams. So that bath that you took is a reflection. But what you want to do is get up in the morning after you went into deep sleep and sit and say, now, where did I go in deep sleep? Who was I? Who am I? and trace yourself back to that formless state with your eye open. With both eyes open, all three of them. Be the three-eyed Gauri, the three-eyed Gauri we were worshipping last night in puja. Be the three-eyed mother. She sees all, on all levels of existence. She's with form, she's beyond form, and she's beyond both form and formlessness as the witness. The final bullet point here is, it is the cause of the gross and subtle bodies. So cause and effect is traced back to your causal body. Embodiment then is now an open book to you. If you understand this chart and what Holy Mother has said, it should be an open book to you. She says about the gross body, people with desires take their lives again and again. Afterwards they go to other planes of experience and they experience pleasure and pain, and in course of time are born again in human form. So that's your basic old rebirth. See, cycles of birth and death and ignorance. Buddha called it samsara, as opposed to nirvana, freedom from birth and death. Now she says about your subtle and causal body, all people, excepting highly advanced souls, live in a spirit body for a year after death. The spirit body can be likened to a body made of air, which is of course a metaphoric reference. So it's as if, I remember Vivekananda saying once, the ancestors are right here on this same plane with you, just in a different dimension. They're standing right next to you. You know, the Central American Indians and people like that, they have that idea of the ancestors, you know, being right here. It's like, gosh, get away from me. You know. They're pressing right up against you, inhabiting the same space, which is a little bit of dimensional difference, so you can't quite see them, see, with these eyes, hear them with these ears. But if you develop subtle eyes and subtle ears, all of a sudden you hear those voices, you see those visions. About the Atman, your true being, she says, only those who belong to a high spiritual category can be renunciates and gain liberation from all kinds of fetters. I bless you so that you may attain liberation in this life, Jivan Mukta. Birth and death are extremely painful. May you not suffer them anymore. Is she a life negator? She doesn't want you to come back in the body in ignorance anymore. Her children came back in knowledge, and she loved them, you see. She loves all children, even those who are suffering, maybe especially those who are suffering. But she doesn't want you to come back here again in ignorance ever again. Too much suffering involved. Too much of a karmic debt weighing on you. No way to live, as we were saying. So make sure you get free of ignorance and then take as many births as you want or not. Those who take births in wisdom are called bodhisattvas or jivan muktas. Those who get their freedom in that particular lifetime and never come back again are called videha muktis, free from all bodies. They'll never show up in a form again. They're just going to merge like a hailstone in an ocean and be perfectly happy there. Like you are in deep sleep, perfectly happy, till the kids burst into the room and wake you up. Understanding our three bodies, very, very precious teaching in the Dharma. Sri Ramakrishna says at the end of this chart, following the Maya of knowledge, step by step one attains knowledge of Brahman. This Maya of knowledge can be likened to the last few steps of a stairway. Next is the roof. So some, after reaching the roof, go up and down the stairs, which is to say they keep the ego of knowledge for helping others, for tasting divine bliss, and for sporting with the devotees. Very nice description by Sri Ramakrishna of a person who is fully enlightened but who maintains a body. For helping others, for tasting divine bliss, and for sporting with the devotees. See, just like Christ with his 12 apostles, and Buddha with his noble 8, and Ramakrishna with his 16 direct disciples, they sported with them. Then they all gave up the form. They're all gone now. Ramakrishna said they're like a band of musicians that blows into town. Avatar and his disciples blow into town, play the most beautiful music anyone's ever heard. And everyone who happens to be there when they set up and played goes running to the rest of town saying, "You've got to come hear this band play." They all come running, but they've already packed up and gone to the next town. So only those whose karma was set to encounter those beings, who had merits from their previous births, are there. Otherwise, the steamship has already left port, and all you have is a few big waves. Which is our case right now, some almost 200 years after Ramakrishna has passed. 1886, is it? 1986, 150 years or so. Not even. So he used to say himself, for at least 200 or 300 years after my death, I will be here in my subtle body with you, keeping the curtain of Maya held up so that souls can get through to Brahman. But Atlas shrugged. Curtain of heaven, Maya is too heavy for any soul to keep up very long. It's going to come falling down again. Look what happened to the religions. A new religion has to come, a new dispensation, a new presenter every 500 or 600 years. And the curtain of Maya falls so heavily, then you can't even recognize Christianity now for what it was when Christ was walking the earth. Because there was no Christianity when Christ was walking the earth. He's it. Tag, cosmic tag, he's it. He's the one. What we say in Hawaii, you're the one. You're the one. It's pidgin, folks. So in that sloka 8, we unwrapped it due to its mention of the circle of births and deaths. Sloka 9 says, there is nothing higher than or different from that reality, nothing greater or more minute than it. It is rooted in its own glory. It stands like a tree, one without a second, immovable, and by that being the whole universe is filled, like dewdrops filled with sunlight. That being is far beyond this world, is formless and free from misery. Those who know this become immortal, but all others have indeed to suffer misery alone. Here at the Healing Center, we see a lot of that. See? Many people come just suffering misery without any knowledge of this superlative being inside of them. That's Sloka 10. Sloka 11 is, therefore that divine Lord, being all-pervading, omnipresent and benevolent, dwells in the hearts of all beings and makes use of all faces, heads, and necks in this world. 12. This self is indeed the mighty Lord. It is imperishable, internal light that controls everything. It guides the intellect of all beings so as to enable them to gain the extremely pure state of mukti, or moksha, or kaivalya, or satori, or nirvikalpa, or sampragyata. So many words for that state of freedom in the different religious traditions. Freedom, what is it? It's not freedom which is produced or generated. It's not freedom that is a result of evolution, development, or transformation. It's not freedom that is something that gets attained, like a post-mortem emancipation. And it's not something to be realized via purification. Freedom is here and now. None of those things can get freedom for you. And if you start off knowing that about freedom, called moksha, then your whole life will be blessed. You'll not be seeking anything. You'll know that you already have that freedom inside of you, and you will be free, and you will live free. I'm sorry, born free is a little bit of a misnomer. No one's born free. You always have the fetters of this body, even the avatar. Sri Ramakrishna used to say, from avatar to the ant, anything in a form suffers. So you're going to have to take on suffering. The difference is some suffer in ignorance and some suffer in knowledge. Those who are suffering in knowledge know their suffering is not based on not having things of the world. Their suffering is based on losing the formless reality. They want to go back to it. Sort of like a young boy misses his mother. Nothing, candy, play, sport, uncles, will ever help that soul. He's just saying, crying, mother, mother, mother. He wants only mother. Like that, the soul wants nothing but God, the soul in knowledge. So he's biding his time here in this realm, see, forbearing all ills, and trying to get into samadhi and coming out of samadhi and into samadhi and out of samadhi, and teaching students, sporting with the devotees, drinking bliss, and helping others, as we just said. That's his whole preoccupation. It's called lila, divine sport. But behind that sport is this strong desire to merge again in Brahman. That's why they go into samadhi so much. They almost can't help it, you see. Ramakrishna would come out of samadhi. He'd look around. He'd see all his best disciples, his wife. Who are you again? He'd say. Who are you? What's your names? He was so far gone from name and form and ego that it took him a while to reorient to the body again. He had gone far beyond, as Buddha said, to the supreme goal, beyond the farthest shore, and he would come back into the body. Very rare thing to be able to do. And then he couldn't even recognize his own wife. So they'd give him a glass of water, because they wanted to hear him talk. Give him a glass of water, and he'd stick his finger in it and go, ah yes, the realm of the five elements. Now I know where I am. He had to orient himself. And traces of samadhi would stay with him for days. So he'd be kind of drunken and blissful. See? Buddha was the same way. Couldn't speak for days. They thought he would never give the secret of nirvana. But out of compassion he finally found his tongue, started speaking. And there's been no religious phenomena like Buddhism, ever. It spread across the world without raising a finger, what to speak of raising a sword. Totally nonviolent. It went everywhere. In a matter of decades and centuries, it had reached Ceylon, Burma, China, Tibet, finally Japan as Zen. It's the most amazing religious phenomenon we've ever seen, and it did it completely nonviolently. Its insistence was, give up animal sacrifice. Its insistence was ahimsa, nonviolence. It convinced great Indian kings to give up violence, stop warring. So, right out of Mother India came the Buddha, 550 years before Christ. We should look at that, meditate on that. So, a mention of how one gets into the extreme state of moksha. You can say it's not a freedom that's produced or generated. That's not moksha. That's not liberation. It's not a freedom that you can attain. That's not moksha. It's not a freedom that comes about by evolution or by transformation of mind. That's not moksha. And it's not something to be realized via purification. Freedom is already here, at hand, always and ever. And that's your true nature. So if you think of it in any of those other ways, it's second best at best. You have to see it in its original state. Moksha, freedom, is a state already at hand. How did he say it? Our great Shankara, whom we're honoring this month. Mukti or moksha is not to be considered a state or experience yet to come. It is the eternal condition of the soul, which is nothing other than Brahman. Sparse words, straight to the point. No wastage, no verbiage, no commentary. It's not a state to come. It's here upon us. It's the nature of your soul is freedom. Vedic koans for you to think about, you see. That's good for one meditation, isn't it? Sit there for an hour thinking about that. Gee, I've been thinking bondage and freedom all this time. Never thought that freedom is and bondage is not. So I've been putting energy into bondage. Christ told me to resist not evil, yet I've here personified an incarnate devil. And I'm resisting it with war against the infidels. They're evil, I'm not. But you're not supposed to resist it, because if you resist it, it gains ground in you. See? You sidestep it, you transcend it. The wind tries to blow through a wall. If it can't, it'll go to the left. Can't find the end of the wall, go to the right. Finally it blows over it, or through a chink in it. It finds a way. So you have to find a way out of Maya, a way out of mundane human convention, a way out of fundamentalist religious leanings. Because freedom lies there, not in pallid imitation of everyone else. That was sloka number 12. Sloka 13 is, assuming a form of the size of a thumb by virtue of intellect, emotion, imagination, and will, the infinite being dwells in the hearts of creatures as their inner self. Those who realize this become immortal. All of the last 4 or 5 slokas have had that ending to them. Those who realize that become immortal. Those who realize that become immortal. Those who meditate on Brahman become Brahman. It's not so far away from your capacity to realize that. In fact, Shankara himself said, have samadhi. Or if you can't have samadhi, practice having samadhi. Assume the position, which is meditation. Samadhi will come to you. Meditation is the 7th limb of yoga. Samadhi is the 8th. How many people can get beyond meditation into samadhi? See? Get to the Father through the Son, see, and have that non-dual experience. He's saying, go ahead, practice it. Try it. Storm the gates of relative existence. Put Maya on its ear. Be the self. Be the divine self that you are. That infinite being has 1,000 heads, 1,000 eyes, 1,000 feet, enveloping the whole universe on all sides. It exists everywhere. The only thing I could think of as a chart was to borrow one of these images from the collection of Ram Prasad Ramanand, and show you this many-headed, many-armed, many-mouthed, many-legged being, which, by the way, correlates with the personal God, right? On down. It doesn't correlate here, because in the 7th sloka we said, beyond the personal God is the Supreme Lord, formless. So God with form at the cosmic level, that cosmic level which is Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, that we saw in the last chart, is the personal God. It's the highest form of God the human mind can conceive of. But then when the mind becomes pure mind, or when it becomes Buddha mind, or when it becomes no mind, or pure mind, then it doesn't see concepts and forms anymore. Its tendency is to merge in them, to merge in the infinite. So that's why Sloka 14 says, that infinite being has 1,000 heads, 1,000 eyes, 1,000 feet, enveloping everything, the whole universe on all sides. The same Upanishad says in the quote here, though the Lord, the cosmic projector of heaven and earth realms, is one and indivisible, yet he is the real owner of all eyes, all faces, all hands and feet in the gradated universes. It is he who inspires them all to do their respective duties in accordance with knowledge of the past actions and tendencies of various beings. He's the Falaharini Kali Devi. He's paying off all karmas. Karma is the God of the universe. Cause and effect. And it exists at gross, subtle, and causal levels that you have to trace. Look at some of those beings there Prajapati is the teacher of the gods. He's actually a human being and he teaches the gods. Because the gods are fixed in a position, they can't get enlightenment. They're assigned to a certain position for hundreds and thousands of years. But man can go up and down the amber stairs of birth and death. That's the advantage. Think embodiment has only a negative connotation? No. And he's free. He can go up and down the amber stairs of birth and death and take as many bodies in as many different places as he wants. Like Markandeya in the Upanishads. Go up the cosmic body to Virat and get right here, you see, and he's hanging out. All of a sudden he falls out of the eye of God and into the ocean of black waters. Swimming around, then he falls back in. That was a strange experience. So he fell out of the highest reckoning of God the human mind could possibly comprehend and into the formless reality, and then fell back in. See, and when he fell back in, he forgot the ocean of formlessness. And he was Markandeya was a great illumined soul who could go up and down all the kingdoms of heaven, anywhere he wanted, like Narada. So when he had that non-dual experience, he was pondering it. You see, what happened to me there in formlessness? Prajapati was a great teacher of men. Then Ganesha, you see the elephant-headed god. He's part of the pantheon. Chandra, the moon. Surya, the sun. There's Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva in the middle that we saw in the last chart, and that we see over here too. The Trinity, it's called. All connected into the all-pervasive Brahman, which is in the heart. There you see Indra, Agni, Vayu, and Varuna, the god of gods, the god of fire, the god of wind, the god of water, and the god of earth, all there. You see Hanuman, the monkey god, Lord Ram's great devotee. There's the Sapta Rishis, the 7 Sapta Rishis that preside over each of the 7 realms of existence, helping beings who go there. About them, they sing. In one particular verse. Sapta Rishi Mandalike Jnana Yogi Rishivar Sapta Rishi Mandalike Jnana Yogi Rishivar Brahma Sukha Choda Kala Svayam Hiyaite Brahma Sukha Choda Kala Svayam Hiyaite Shri Rama Krishna Ekadin Jnana Mogana Huite Jnana Meve Pehechani Narendra Konate. Beautiful song written in this decade about the Sapta Rishis and about Ramakrishna and Niran, Vivekananda. Later his monastic name was Vivekananda. His pre-monastic name was Narendra, Narendranath, Lord of Men. This is pre-monastic name given to him by his parents. So Sapta Rishi Mandalike, the mandala of rishis, you see, that preside over all the worlds. They're the highest of all beings in each of the 7 realms that correlate with the 7 chakras, by the way. Our salutations to the Swamis of the Ramakrishna order who write songs such as these in this day and time. Not everything is ancient. Everything is eternal, but it doesn't have to be ancient to be sacred. There are many beautiful things happening in the contemporary times that are of divine nature. Well, there's Arjuna and Krishna on the battlefield, you see below. They enact that same battle over and over again. You don't know that by reading the Gita. You think, oh, this is it, you see. But if you read the Srimad Devi Bhagavatam or other scriptures, you find out that Krishna and Arjuna come every age. Thousands of times they've enacted the same battle for people who have an opportunity to get up and out of birth and ignorance. And the Gita is there all the time. It's an eternal scripture. Krishna brings it back again, back again. It's an eternal scripture. We call our scriptures eternal. They're not marked by time. So there they are on the battlefield, and there's the word Ishvara, which is God in human form. And here is the sloka which I just read. I don't need to read it again. Hands and feet everywhere, ears, arms, mouths everywhere. It exists, pervading everything. That's the personal Brahman. So if you think the personal Brahman is that wide and variegated, how about the impersonal Brahman? Like sunlight and dewdrops. It's even more all-pervasive. And it's not impeded by forms like the personal God is. That's why sometimes people have a problem with the personal God. They think, I want to go beyond the personal. See? I'm Jewish. I'm Muslim. I'm Advaitic. I want to go beyond the form, God with form. I want to see, my prophets are fine, but I want to see Allah face to face. I want to merge with Yahweh. I want to go into the Absolute. In 2 days, my friends, we've done 14 slokas with about 8 or 10 charts. That's how I unwrap slokas for you in this day and age, by these visuals. Think how bored you would be if you just sit here and hear me for 3 hours. But I actually break that up with visuals, so it helps you. So you have hearing and seeing, right? The power to hear and the power to see, all connected back into the mind connected into the intellect, and the intellect connected into the great self. Connect them all, and live a divine life in that connection. In my next meeting here in the summer, we'll go through more of this Shvetashvatara Upanishad. Mark in your books, please, those of you who are using them, the text, that we are on 314. And we use these charts, this chart particularly, for that sloka. There are 21 slokas in this chapter, so the other 6 or 7 we should have no problem in doing on my next visit. So thank you for your kind attention and for your deep attentions. Let's end here with a chant. Om Bhadram, Om Bhadram, Karnebhihi Sriniyama Devaha, Bhadram Pasyema Akshabir Yajatraha, Stirairangaish Tushtuvam Sastanuvir, Vyashema Devahitam Yadaya. May we see with these eyes what is good and spiritual. May we hear with these ears what is noble and uplifting. And may we, while worshiping the Lord and Mother of the universe with healthy minds and bodies, live a life which is beneficial to ourselves and to all other beings. Om peace, peace, peace. May peace be unto us, may peace be unto all. Om Hari Om.